Toad used 100 bits, says, how should I play in a team as one of 3 GM players, with the other 3 being plats and diamonds that don't practice? You find a new team. Okay? You find a new team. How should I play in a team as one of 3 GM players, with the other 3 being plats and diamonds that don't practice? You find a new team. If they're friends, you treat it as a fun time that you stack and competitive together. Otherwise, you get the fuck out of there. You're just holding yourself back, dude. Oh, right. I forgot that's the way Overbuff works. Thanks for pointing that out, Neelix. Olik subscribed with Prime. Oh. Mearst1 subscribed for the first time with Tier 3. And, oh my goodness, guys. Really appreciate the support. Mearst1 subscribed with Tier 3 for the first time ever. And then Mars Envy resubscribed Tier 3 for 3 months in a row. Looking forward to you going for full time. Thanks, Mars Envy. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the silver keycap. Thanks for all the support over the last 3 months. Can I get some Jayne loves in the chat for Mearst and Mars Envy? Okay. Bronze Soldier. Okay. Snap, crackle, pop. 38% what? Accuracy. 31% win rate. Okay. Let's take a look. Let's just do a quick audio.
We got the Mortal Strike himself.
How's it going?
The Mortal Strike himself. So is like really low bronze the same as really high GM where everybody knows everyone? Is this a thing? I feel like this is a thing. Because once you get to like mid GM, like 4,200 and up, you're always playing with the same people, just like reshuffled onto different teams. Is this like the same thing in low bronze where everyone just knows everyone because there's not enough of a like player base? I think this would be hilarious. It's a thing? Is it a thing? Please tell me it's a thing. It is? Yes, this makes my fucking day. There's got to be like this. It's kind of like, it's like an Alcoholics Anonymous group where it's like, how you doing today, John? Still stuck in bronze? Yup. Still stuck in bronze. How about you? Yup. Still in bronze. It's like it's just such a loving community feeling that makes me so like just happy and warm and fuzzy inside that there's a little bronze community. That makes me happy. I just like, you don't get any sense of community in Plat. That's one of my favorite things about reaching GM. Honestly, that's my favorite thing about GM. Is like the community. You're like, hey, how you doing? Good. And like, you never get toxic with the other people on the enemy team. First of all, because there's such a small community, chances they are going to be on your team. So you feel fine about losses because you know the people you lost to, and you're like, yep, I just need to get better. Like, it's the same people on different teams, and it's just like GM definitely feels high GM definitely feels more like a community. Masters just feels like fucking trash. GM, you know the people, you talk to them, they're friendly, you know who they are, they know who you are. Yeah, I love GM for that reason. And just makes me happy to know that it also kind of happens in bronze. They all hate each other? These two guys didn't sound like they hated each other. Those two sounded like old friends greeting each other. And Philly Bombasto, thanks for the 100 bits, my friend. Good comp so far?
I guarantee you're going to get 52 eliminations this game.
The man's a prophet. Oh, you're
pretty bold.
Yeah, super blech. Would you mind going a healer?
We're all.
You're just shattering. Like, so many people like, nobody talks on comms in bronze. Everyone's toxic. The last 3 VODs we've looked at have been nothing. Like, the one guy was like a little bit upset, but he wasn't even all like that toxic. He was just really wanted to win. I love this.
Sure, yeah.
Hey, thanks, dude.
Hey, you want to go healer?
Oh,
Sure, yeah.
no.
How many times have you just been like, hey, you want to go healer?
Already.
And somebody goes, sure,
Dude,
yeah.
you
And how
gotta
many
have a
times did that
fucking
happen in
positive-
bronze?
Kill him with kindness.
This is
you know?
awesome. I love this.
It is not my Doomfist for a name like Mortal Strike.
But I will see them done.
It's Philly again.
Attack commences in
Is
30
Failure good at
seconds.
is Failure
Is Bronze populated entirely on new accounts doing Road to GM? It's insanely hard for like anybody who's GM to place on Bronze without actively throwing. So pretty much in order to get like Bronze or Silver when you're a Masters or a GM player, you have to like you have to basically turn a corner, go, hey, look, that's play of the game, and then jump off a cliff instead. That's basically what it. I forget, was it IDD Cutie who said that? But that was just like the funniest fucking quote. It was Stir. It was Stir. It was like placing a new account, and he's just like turn a corner, and be like, hey, look, that's the play of the game, and then you jump off a cliff instead. So it's very difficult for a skilled player to place in Bronze.
good healer?
No, he's shit.
Stir
Oh.
said that. Yeah. God,
No,
that
no
clip
offense,
is
man.
so. That's probably one of my favorite Overwatch clips is when Stir says that. Because he literally turns a corner and he just like looks at 4 people and realizes he could kill all of them, and he just goes, "Nope."
Well, shit.
Well,
bro.
nah, he's gonna turn it around this game.
Sorry,
He's
bro.
gonna be a fucking pro for us.
That clip
You're the
is like
best, Felix.
2016
the
Overwatch.
best.
That is an old clip. But if somebody can find that, I'd be really happy.
Let's big dick the fuck out of him, guys.
I love these comms. You guys are making me so just giddy about this. This is so good.
Just push in.
One. Attack commences.
Big dick swinging.
Capture.
Big
Oh, yeah,
dick
dude.
swinging.
You know how fucking big Reinhardt is? Oh, buddy. Thank you.
Oh,
Man, if these two guys hosted a fucking sitcom, I'd be okay with it.
you seem like you're interested.
Shield out 2-1-0 out. Careful. Somebody up above, don't know who it is. Shield at 17.
Symmetra above.
17. 2000,
Your Ryan's communicating his shield health.
2000. I'm ready to push. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Are you fucking kidding me with this Reinhardt?
Ugh.
Can I have him in my games, please?
Heal me, please. Heal me, please. Heal me, please.
Got you.
Thank you.
This is
Keep going. Keep going.
awesome.
I'll protect you from the ice. Got her.
Double, triple kill.
This
Good push,
is
good push.
Let's fucking go. Big
fantastic.
dick the fuck out of
GG.
boys.
What?
Like I said, just big dick him and we're solid.
All you need is
Who
big
is
dick.
this Reinhardt? I need to
Big
find
dick
this
and a big
Reinhardt
dick.
and
You
just
gotta
like
swing both
duo
of
with
them.
him in my games constantly.
What if you call your big dick Big Hammer?
I'm actually kind of freaking out right now. What is going on?
I'll take that.
These
Better
comms
Reinhardt,
are amazing.
motherfucker.
Like these are better comms than some Master players, and by some Masters players, I mean like most
Good
Masters
stuff.
players. Like
My ulti.
the 3, 2,
So,
1 pushing
when,
in, the recharging, the not poking at the
well,
choke, the
Reaper's
just going
better,
in.
so
It's so
we win.
good.
Ayo.
Like
Bang
they've
fucking
got shield
open.
generator and armor now, which is gonna suck to push through this choke. But
Soldier up above. Is that a? Yeah, that is. That's a Torbjorn.
you're
I'm
not
gonna go
paying
take a
attention to
picture.
sound cues. That's the first thing I'm noticing. It's kind of like the first
Or you
bad
can
side.
just take it from me.
Is there's a sim pretty much
Soldier
tearing
above,
apart
soldier
your
above.
backline,
Stay
and you
behind shield.
didn't even turn around. So, first thing, you're not paying attention to sound cues.
Come on, shield.
No.
Yes, I'm paying attention to the soldier, but so far I haven't found anything to like correct other than sound cues. Right? I'm still watching the soldier.
Still here. I need some assistance though. This Reaper is trying
I
to
got
be
my
inside
ult.
of me. Shield down in 4, 3,
Yeah.
2.
So anytime, like we're gonna watch this again. So like the aim, the sensitivity feels a little bit high. So if we slow this down a little bit, you're gonna see that his aim moves in like very discrete positions, where it's kind of like it's in one place, and then it like very like you can see it instead of having like smooth motion. See how it's kind of like snapping around a little bit. This is a really good indicator of high sensitivity. So high sensitivity is like this guy's sensitivity is probably above 10,000, probably like 15, 20, somewhere in there. I don't think it's like crazy high, but it's definitely high, which is a very common theme for bronze players. But yeah, we'll have to see once he gets into like more, because he's hit a lot of Helix rockets, and it's not like he's aiming for the head, but he is actually like aiming more or less in their general direction and actually landing shots. So you look cute today. Aw, baby, you know it. Yeah, very jittery. I use almost 8,000 DDPI. 8,000 isn't bad. 10k plus isn't crazy high. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Probably less than like 5% of the player base uses over 10k.
Got their mercy.
Like it. So
I need heals though, please.
I love your Reinhardt.
Oh, I need heals real bad. I need heals real bad. Okay, no.
So yeah, you can't push into a molten core. So your your awareness, which I'm not. Do you use headphones? You may play with speakers. Maybe you're playing with speakers because your awareness is lacking, unless you kind of like see it on your screen. Although you did kind of miss the Reaper and he was on your screen too. Maybe you don't play with a headset. I'm gonna keep watching.
I got 4 gold.
Hey,
so
Apply.
Far. Let's keep it going, guys.
Hey man, Apply. If you want to submit a VOD, I will definitely take a look at it on stream free of charge. Absolutely. If you are offering, I am accepting.
This Symmetra.
Yeah, so far, like, well, once he gets into, like, hopefully he actually gets into an instance where he can kind of get into an aim duel and we can kind of look at how he aims under pressure, because that's like the real good indicator of what your aim is how you aim under pressure. But so far, he's just going to fight a turret and a soldier on the high ground. So unless he goes for a flank or something, we may not see it. But yeah, his awareness is so far the largest glaring issue of this gameplay.
Quarter 2 most.
She's doing pretty good.
Not dead
Group
yet.
up, guys. Group up.
Yeah.
And like your Reinhardt is probably stuck down here mostly because he gets stalled out on maps that have high ground or where Reinhardt doesn't work. Like he's a really great Reinhardt, but Reinhardt's just so badly out of the meta right now.
And go. Take out the turret, please.
Yeah, your sense is way too high. So anytime you kind of like you weren't just like moving in a direction, you kind of like moved it up, but then it kind of like floated around in circular patterns as you kind of like constantly overshot where you wanted to aim. Sensitivity is too high.
Need the turret off to the right, or left, sir, left. Take out the smash turret, please. I'm almost down. I need help. Okay.
Center of mass,
Come on, guys.
flick to the floor with the helix
Engagement
rocket. That
up
aim
on
was
We got
fine.
Mortal Strike and Poncho. Your guys' ults are up. Anna, would you mind charging me when
okay. Honestly, who the fuck is your Reinhardt? Valkyrie Seru.
we go in?
Just gonna take out the.
Yeah, I took out their Reaper.
That is a interesting turret.
Down and I'll keep getting back up.
Ah, damn it. Alright, all you Moroi powered up.
Okay, so you may not have the greatest awareness, but your Anna has even worse awareness.
Go, man, it's all you, all you.
Fuck, dude. Keep me healed, please.
Okay, so we finally got a little bit of a situation where we can take a look at your aim in slow motion. Let's take a look. Oh, let's mute that. Okay. So, a little bit of poor trigger discipline shooting the payload. Overshooting left to right. That's pretty common with high sensitivity. Almost got him. Activated tactical visor. Well, we don't really care about your aim in tactical visor. Do.
The Reaper's behind you guys.
He's out. Alright, stand behind me. Genji above.
It's not like your aim is horrendous.
So is Ryan. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, he did.
Now, this is interesting right here. Why, like, do you not like aiming vertically?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, he did.
So, the Genji jumped up and you didn't even follow him. Now, there's a few kind of things that go on with really high sensitivity players, and is that if you have a pivot point, so if you can kind of think of my arm like this, if I rest my elbow on an armrest of a chair, and I'm an arm aimer, so if I've got an armrest and my elbow is the pivot point, I can aim horizontally just fine, but in order to aim vertically or vertically up or vertically down, my pivot point gets in the way. So this is really common for high sensitivity aimers who either rest their forearm on like the edge of the table So if you kind of, if this is the table, if you kind of rest your forearm on the edge of your table, that acts as a pivot point. Or if you use a wrist rest, or if you use a really high, like if you use very high sensitivity, like fingertip aiming will allow you to go vertically up and vertically down. But if you use a sensitivity that's just high enough that you basically aim with only your wrist, but then you rest your wrist like on the table, then you can aim horizontally okay, but aiming vertically up and vertically down requires arm motion. So this could be that you've got some sort of pivot point on your arm that's preventing you from aiming vertically up or vertically down. So a few things to consider. Yeah, like you just definitely want to be able to aim freely up and down just as freely as you can aim left or right. So ideally your arm kind of makes this perfect 90-degree to your table, so it kind of just sits there. It's not like your arm is applying a pressure or anything like that, and then you just want to be able to move your arm freely around. So this is one of the main problems that a lot of people have when aiming vertically is just that their actual physical posture and the way they are using their mouse physically prevents them from aiming vertically up and vertically down. What do you think you can tell someone's SR by footage from the practice range? Practice range? I'm not sure if I could. Am I the only one that lifts my arm up and never touches the desk when aiming? I've never heard of that, but yeah.
Good shit, Diva. Guys, stay on payload, stay on payload.
Torb ulted. Torb's behind you guys.
Do you think it's better for a long time in a row or short intervals? Playing in a long time, like, so there's, like, if you want to learn something new, you have to dedicate a period of time to learning that. But then if you want to improve over time, you want to be spending many short intervals over a period of like days or whatnot. So learning something new, grind it for a long period of time until you kind of get used to it, get the basics, get a competency in it. And then in order to improve and iterate and like maintain your capabilities, smaller periods of time more often will help.
We need to stop chasing picks. We need to stay on point.
He aims at the ground so he doesn't miss his Helix rocket. Also, center of mass is just easier to hit.
Guys.
Especially like he's not doing it for this reason, but it's often the reason that tracers aim more like center of mass, almost verging on like kneecap aim, is because it's a lot more common for like head hitboxes, specifically on tracer. The head sways left and right, but the actual center of mass doesn't change nearly as much. I can't really demonstrate that on my own, but think about like characters like Soldier and Tracer that when they strafe, they kind of like lean into their movement. So like aiming at their head, if a person's AD strafing, is harder than just aiming at their body or like their upper legs. Nope, VOD reviews are for subs and non-subs alike.
Loyalty and it's canceled.
They're pay to play though.
Fucking adorable.
Let's focus, guys. Let's regroup and focus.
60 seconds remaining.
We need DPS to start doing damage. I still got gold, guys.
Oh, I'm trying. What the fuck? The Genji's doing work.
Your aim definitely becomes like your aim is already mediocre, but it's becoming worse in the vertical, and it's something that I'd have to look at your setup to see exactly how we could fix that. But I feel like either your DPI or your sensitivity is too high, or both.
Go on, guys. Go.
And then something's probably wrong with your setup. Ooh, that's rough. And of course, like it also applies, you know, how low you can put your sensitivity also depends on how large of a mouse mat you have.
10 seconds remaining.
Don't tolerate defeat. Get on the attack now.
Widow behind us.
Could be a Genji Smurf. Could be a Torb Smurf.
She got me.
Don't know. But they have a Sim and a Torb, which at lower elos is absolute cancer because everything has so much health. It regenerates without the need for a healer, and armor has damage reduction. Sim Torb is just absolute cancer in low
Started
elos.
off well.
Absolute cancer.
Score 1-0. Switching sides.
Yeah, I don't think there's
No,
Smurfs. There could be.
Prepare
But
your defenses.
even if there is, it doesn't really matter.
Poncho, would you mind going tank for me? I'll switch off if I am not doing as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, see how they hold.
No problem.
Why did the mods lock the Guess the SR channel? It's for subs only. So the Guess the SR channel on Discord is for subs only. We should open up like a channel where anyone can guess the SR. That would be fun.
And another healer.
I'm playing offense as Bonzo, don't worry.
Yeah, but we need another healer though. Oh, Lucio. Perfect.
Hey Stack, good to see you.
Love you, Steely.
For optimal chance of survival,
Why not just get people to react with their SR guess? That's probably what we're doing. Duckers, do you want to set that up?
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Yeah, let's open up a Guess My SR channel for everyone. So subs can get me to guess, but then we'll kind of have like we'll just make a channel where we can set up like the ranks as reactions, and then people can vote with the reactions on what SR they think the individual is. That'd be fun. How important is VOD review compared to scrim practice? So if you're talking about like how important is the balance between scrimming and VOD review, the team that I played on, we did 50-50. So for every 2 hours of scrims we did 2 hours of VOD review. And like my background is in aviation, where we do like 4 hours of prep for 1 hour of work. So I think that's a little bit much. Now in aviation, you know, of course you don't have as many room for error, but so I verge on equal or more VOD review than practice, I think is important.
5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh, and apply if you're on the Discord, message a mod so that you can get the friends next door role.
Defend objective A.
cast this forward.
They have a
So if you, yes, it shows the SR in the lower left corner though, but if you have a highlight, so if you press like the capture highlight button or you get a play of the game, if you download that highlight from the Overwatch client, it will not show your rank, which is what makes this all possible. So it's the fact that downloaded highlights and play the games don't contain rank icons, and they're all 15 seconds long. So that's how we're kind of doing it. Do you mean self-VOD reviews or like a third party? It would be like self-VOD reviews or team VOD reviews. So the team that I was on that did like the 50-50 VOD review to actual playing the game, we didn't have a coach back then, so it was just the 6 of us we would scrim for 2 hours, we'd take like a half-hour break, and then we would go over the scrim VOD together. Like we would pick the map that we did the worst on and the map that we wanted to improve on, and we would discuss that map together, seeing what went wrong, what went right. It was really eye-opening. So it really helped my improvement. I jumped like 300, 350 SR that season. That was my first time hitting GM, is just going through that scrim practice and VOD review.
sniper.
So just a couple tips, like against a Bastion or a Diva or something with a large chunk of armor.
Armor down.
Normally you want the Helix rocket to land first.
They got a Bastion in the room.
Because your rocket gets its damage reduced significantly less than your left clicks do. Like your left clicks go from 19 damage to 14 damage. So it's more than a third of the left clicks. Like a third of your damage. No, just over a quarter. Math is hard, okay? Just over a quarter of your damage is reduced if you're shooting left clicks into armor like Bastion or Diva. But if you right click a Diva or a Bastion to start with, then the rocket itself is only reduced by 5. So you get less than 5% of your damage reduced if you are putting a Helix into it first. So it basically, armored targets lead with Helix. Squishy targets lead with bullets. Just a tip about Soldier.
I'm coming, I was dead.
It's very dangerous. You're probably going to get walled.
Ooh, nice trap.
Your Winston got walled instead.
Where's out? I need help. I need help with me. Guys, come on. You can't just...
Your Reinhardt went Hanzo. That's so unfortunate. Sorry.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So we're seeing that like your awareness again
Sorry,
is the
guys.
problem, And I'm not sure if you have Dolby Atmos on or if you're
Yeah.
wearing a headset at all, but both of those help with being able to tell with directional sound. And like yesterday when I was playing
Their
in
Genji's still
deathmatch
doing
or
work.
1v1s and I had music going, if you don't have the ability to use directional sound, it just means that you have to check your corners and your flanks way more common, or way more often.
Junker would be better for the Genji.
So yeah, here did you saw where the opponent had their soldier position and where they had their turret? It was on that high ground there. So like I kind of guessed this from your statistics, but you had a really high objective time, which like yeah. So soldiers usually don't want to be contesting the objective. They want to be on high ground near the objective. Soldier is a very squishy target, and kind of like using his sprint, he can reposition. So kind of if somebody contests him on the high ground, you know, you can just see it coming and then run away. So if like a Genji dashes at you, if a Winston or D.Va leap at you, you just basically play running away simulator, and then take a new position. But any soldier that has like a large amount of objective time usually doesn't use high ground enough. So you've taken a suboptimal position here where you need to be taking high ground as much as possible to get these nice angles, as well as keeping yourself safe. I was coaching a scrub tough team, so a team that was mostly silver, and I had this soldier who played like you did. It was basically directly behind,
Junkrat could deal with both.
like directly behind his tanks all the time. Never respected the high ground, and you know he considered
And with
himself
that
a
Bastion.
team player. But
Fucking
the only thing he was really accomplishing by playing with his tanks as much as he did was by not
fucking
getting enough
good.
personal value. And really, a soldier isn't a great hero to peel. Like McCree can use the flash for the burst damage, and like McCree is a lot more suited to positioning, you know, behind tanks with healers because the flash itself can provide a utility to the team and threaten people so that they kind of can't kill
For
the
the fourth
supports or
time,
whatnot.
Junkrat would have
But
been great.
soldier
yeah, I had
can
Goldie
do a
Limbs
really
and
great
damage
job
for
of
that
creating
longest time, and
space
I
and
was playing
applying
tank
pressure
first round, so.
through flanking high grounds or just high grounds in general, especially if you're in a high ground position near your team. You have the option to retreat to your team if things do get too dangerous for you to handle. So the position you are in on that starting part of Streets phase is a position that I would retreat to if, you know, I couldn't hold the high ground anymore. But you can't like retreat to the high ground from the low ground. So start on the high ground. Do you use artificial surround sound? No, I don't. I played a quick play on Hannemer a second. Sim, Tor, Brig, Mercy, Orisa, anything with like a shit ton of that. I either go hard dive. If they don't have a hit scan, I go pharmacy. Or if you're like solo queue and nothing else is working, and people are actually willing to follow up on your calls, you could go Sombra. Do you think Winston and D.Va need less mobility or other tanks need more mobility? I think they need to introduce more tanks with more mobility. In the same way that the Rhine and Orisa, like Rhine and Orisa feel very much the same niche, but there's enough differences between the two of them that new metas have evolved around having a second shield tank. So if we just get another, if the next hero absolutely 110% needs to be a tank with vertical mobility. If it's not, the meta is just going to stay dive. So at least we'll have variations. But this like Brigitte as a counter, you know, Brigitte's CC, yes, it helps against targets with high mobility, but it will also help equally well, if not better, against targets with poor mobility. So yeah, like a target that already has poor mobility, if they get CC'd, they're punished harder, right? So if you knock back like a Reinhardt or something, then he's knocked back and he has to walk forward. But if you knock back a Winston, then he can use his mobility to kind of negate that knockback. So like Brigitte was made more or less as like an anti-mobility, anti-diver support, but she punishes immobile heroes just as badly, if not worse, than the mobile heroes she was designed to counter. So yeah, I'd like to see more tanks with vertical mobility. Is double shield tank comp a thing? Yeah, it's called Pirate Ship. It's only usually run with Bastion. Okay.
Deep.
Anyway, so I would like to see your setup. If Mortal Strike, if you are watching this, I'd like to see your setup. I'd like to know your DPI and your sensitivity, and I'd kind of like to walk through just to make sure that you have everything set up the best you can. And the other thing is that you're also running display-based FPS. So your FPS right here is saying 69. It's actually saying 69. So this frame rate, even if you only have a 60 FPS monitor, is increasing your input lag significantly. Now, I play on a computer that's nice enough that I can get 300 FPS. I only have a 144 hertz monitor, but 300 FPS reduces my input lag even more. So, regardless of whatever the fuck your display is, you want the highest consistent frame rate you can achieve. Like, I bitch whenever my frame rate goes below like 100. So 70 FPS, you can definitely make it to Grandmaster. I'm not saying that this is the reason you're bronze, but especially if you recorded this video in this quality, like Genji, his shoulder here has reflections. Like, you've got the graphics turned up pretty high, and you're still, maintaining this while recording this. So, uncap your frames, put it to like 200 if you can maintain 200. If not, try 150. And some people will definitely it's definitely not a disadvantage to play on like 75% render scale if that allows you to have a frame rate of like 200. Even if you only have a 60 FPS monitor, things will still feel smoother and faster. So this is kind of like the second person we've seen in bronze who has their frames capped to display based on a 60 FPS monitor. So uncap that shit. I play on 100% render scale, and I play with nicer graphics. I kind of eat a little bit of the input lag because I want to look at a little bit nicer game. I'm not a guy who puts his all into competitive when playing personally, because I play video games to have fun. We're going to be completely honest. So I play on 100% render scale instead of 75, even though it's a input lag disadvantage, just because I want to look at a little bit of a prettier game. But if you want to be like ultra competitive, 75% or even 50% render scale, uncap your frames, try and push that shit as high as you can go. How did you uncap? It's in video settings. What does reduce buffering, triple buffering do? Reduce buffering, I don't remember the technical explanation. I don't remember. Most people it works, but it's like if you have 3 dots or something, you have to disable reduced buffering. Oh my god, I'm going to get this wrong, aren't I? I played with reduced buffering on, but then I kept getting 3 dots after my FPS counter. So after a ton of research, I turned reduced buffering off, and I actually had like a frame rate increase of like 80 to 90 FPS increase. So yeah, reduced buffering, I don't remember the technical explanation of what it does, but if you have it on and you like alt tab or anything, you also have to like toggle it off and then back on and whatnot. So, how do you win more Pharaoh 1v1s? Yeah, 3 dots is bad. So you can see there's 1 dot after his FPS counter. I'm not sure if you can see this, but yeah. So normally the FPS counter either has 1, 2, or 3 dots after the number, and that the number of dots indicates the problem that's preventing your frame rate from being higher. 3 dots is bad. I don't remember exactly. I'm sure there's a thread somewhere. Just search like Overwatch FPS dots or something like that, and it'll tell you what each number of dots means. What if I only have 25 to 30 FPS consistently? Does it really hold me back that hard? It's certainly not going to help. There's many examples of people reaching like GM or top 500 on like 60 or 30 FPS, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say that it is not a competitive advantage to have a higher frame rate. And so this is just kind of a funny, more of a funny story or anything than else. But I think buying a nicer computer really made me a better Overwatch player. Not because the computer made me better at Overwatch, but because it made me realize that my setup was not the problem. I was actually just ass at the game. So, the nicer mouse didn't help. The nicer keyboard didn't help or anything like that. However, the one upgrade that actually did significantly improve, my play was the 144 hertz monitor. It is a huge advantage to play on 144 hertz. Not going to lie about that one.